Hello, I'm Marina Johnson, and this is TABLEWORK, a TAPS podcast series where we interview the artists and theater makers behind our productions on what it takes to get their productions from the page to the stage. This episode features me, Marina Johnson. I am directing the TAPS Winter Mainstage production of Sarah DeLappe's The Wolves. The Wolves explores Saturday mornings in the lives of a suburban American high school girls soccer team as they prepare for their weekly games. In today's episode, Diana Lucer, the TAPS department chair and my faculty advisor for this project, interviews me about bringing this play from the page to the stage.
Well, hi, Marina. It's such a pleasure to be talking with you today. Maybe we can start off by you talking a bit about why this play and why now?
That's a great question. Thank you. I'm so excited to work on The Wolves right now. Um, when it came out in 2016, I felt a kinship with it as soon as I saw it. And I was like, oh, this is a play that really speaks to a particular age group. We have a high school soccer team,
Hmm.
and they're high school girls. And so looking at what this play can sort of do on stage. So when it came out, I felt like, oh, this play is so relevant and it's speaking to now. And then I was surprised to find that when I read it again, I was like, oh, it's speaking to the now again. And what does that mean? And what does it mean that this play felt so relevant to me then and to now? But part of the reason I think it's relevant now is because there are still so many of the same sort of problems that the play addresses that sort of repeat themselves. So one of them I would say is that often people don't take high schoolers and what they're going through very seriously, and especially high school girls. So the players on the team in the play talk about anything from their periods to genocide. And sometimes the juxtaposition of those things makes it feel like they're not taking anything particularly seriously. While in reality, they're taking everything quite seriously. And we're seeing them roll with the
Mm.
punches of learning on the fly and also navigating what it means to be part of an individual, but also to be part of a group. So I find these things to be things that really speak to me and that I see students navigating on campus. And then I see
Right.
people in PhD land also navigating about what it means to be part of an academic community, but also to be an individual within that. So I thought, oh, this play is bringing up great elements. Let's bring it to the stage and see what kind of conversations it can spark.
Great. Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be speaking to a number of different audiences in that way, sort of within and beyond our immediate community. So, how then did you start the creative process for this piece? What's influencing your current thinking for the piece?
Yeah, my directorial process starts in, I would say, two different ways. One is very logistical. I'm a type A personality and I love to make lists. So I make lists of themes, I make lists of props, I make lists of costumes, I gather images. And so, on that hand, I feel like I'm trying to really pinpoint different places that I'm thinking. And then I also just like to dream. I was sitting this summer in Palestine in Ramallah, and I was looking at a soccer field, and I was just daydreaming about what it means to play soccer. What does this look like as a language that goes throughout the world? And so, in part of that dreaming, it helps me also imagine what does it mean to be in high school? What does it mean to have this physicality, which I'm not a soccer player. And so when I imagine soccer physicality, it's really sort of a larger than life thing that I've seen on TV or in Stanford sports games now. But so I find that those two things working side by side, sort of imagining and then really trying to ground myself logistically, is part of the process. And I let them sort of grow side by side. So that's how it started. And then my current influences are really what's happening in the rehearsal room and then in our design and production meetings. It's
Mm.
so exciting to get to work with college age students who are removed from the time period of being in high school, but still relate, still
Yeah.
understand it, still know people
Yeah.
in high school. And seeing what they're bringing to the table and their interpretation really helps keep me feeling fresh and like that there are exciting things that are bubbling up there.
Mm. Yeah, great. Well, you mentioned, these students who are involved being a little removed from high school. So, can you tell us a bit more about who was involved in the play? And are there any particularly interesting collaborations that have emerged during this process?
Definitely, I would love to. So the cast is a cast of 10, and they are all Stanford students, which is exciting. Nine of them play high schoolers, and then one of them plays a different character, a soccer mom, who is on stage in a different capacity than those on the team. And so the nine student actors are people who come from different places on campus. Some of them are deeply involved in the theater and performance studies department, and some of them, this is their first time really visiting and being part of this collaboration, which is
Mm,
great. I
that's
also
exciting.
love, yeah, it's great to have it's so that we're not feeling like we're in a container. We're really speaking sort of broadly and able, the students are bringing so many different kinds of experiences, both life experiences and campus experiences, into the room. So we have those students, and our 10th person who's playing the soccer mom is also a student, but in a different way, in a graduate capacity. Um, and then I'm so grateful for the collaborations that are getting to exist. So we have these that are in the rehearsal room with the cast, but also with our stage management team. We have a great
Hmm.
professional stage manager from the Bay. We have two assistant stage managers, who are sort of TAPS regulars in different capacities, and who I've gotten to work with in different ways. So it's great to see them in this role now too. I have two assistant directors who I'm working with. I have a dramaturg from who's a PhD in English. She is an assistant dramaturg. So we have these great folks, and then we have the designers, who are
Yeah.
affiliated with TAPS in different ways as uh, lecturers and professors and lead designers. And so, yeah, I find those collaborations to be so enriching. I've gotten to sort of assistant director, dramaturg with them before, but now collaborating with them as a director feels like it's opening so many other doors. And we have a sound designer also, who does not work for Stanford, except for this project, I guess.
Mhm. Yep.
Rob Bergenstock, who's my partner, who is doing the sound design. So yeah, I just a very quick overview, I guess, of all of the great collaborations.
Yeah, and it's developing in this really generative way, and that leads into the next question that I had actually, which was about the design elements and what design elements are you most excited to engage with?
That's a great question. So I think on the page, it can feel like, okay, we're set in an indoor soccer stadium, someplace in the United States.
Right.
They're going to wear soccer uniforms. They're going to have to be
Exactly.
on some sort of green, right? Like, where's
Yeah.
the creativity? But the designers keep showing me the ways that we can really bring this world, and make it very specific to this cast, and to
Mm,
also exemplify some of the thematic elements that we're really looking for. So one of the stage directions DeLappe gives in the play is that the soccer field feels like it goes on forever,
mm,
which is such a challenge. How do you make a very specific theater space that has four walls that we can see feel like it goes on forever? And
right.
I feel like
Mm,
our scenic designer, Nina, really came in with this idea for how to extend the playing space and for how to take us away from what could otherwise be quite a really realistic piece,
mm-hmm.
and to give us a sense that this field does go on, that it does extend. And in this way, where we feel sort of surrounded by soccer, it gives
Mm,
us the fact that these girls really are also surrounded by soccer. This is their life. It's what they spend all of their time doing, and with each other. And then in costumes, while of course we do have soccer uniforms, um, it's exciting to work with Becky, our costume designer, to see, oh, well, what does it mean for them to have different warm ups? How are we showing their personality? Are they wearing hair ties? Are they wearing friendship bracelets? What is their personality, and how is that coming through? And that also then, of course, goes to props. What props are they
mm-hmm.
carrying? Are they carrying backpacks, and what's in the backpacks?
Right.
Um, so there are just these great ways of bringing um, different nuance to the characters, which is true in all plays, but in this one in particular, that can feel maybe on the page like it's a little prescriptive.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing it to life in ways that really feel like they're providing character backstory and agency feels rich and exciting to me.
Mm. No, it is interesting, and maybe there's something about that more pared down element on the surface of it on the page that actually, as you delve into it, it really does open up into these girls' lives and the complexities of those lives. So, what then would you want the audience to walk away from the piece thinking about?
That's a great question, and it's a question that I both love and feel challenged by as a director too, because I don't want to necessarily be prescriptive to the audience, while on the same hand, I also want them to be. I've been thinking about things, and I would like them to have some of these questions too as they leave. But I guess I want them to be asking questions about maybe preconceptions that they have of
Mm.
particular age groups or demographics, to let this challenge some of the ways that we think about high school girls, definitely, but also about the ways that we think of functioning within different units.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
then the play has a moment that I won't spoil now for those listening, but there is something quite drastic that happens, and the characters have to deal with that experience.
Mm,
And in dealing with it, they realize that they've been living in a bit of a bubble, and that bubble has sort of burst here. Um,
mm,
and I think throughout our adult lives, different sort of things that we thought were quite constructed do break apart in ways like this. And seeing what it's like to grapple with loss, and to find new ways of community and collective care through the loss, and to discover new parts
yeah.
of ourselves, I think is something that excites me. And so I'm hoping that people both ask these questions, but also think of new possibilities that exist beyond the horizons that we had previously imagined for ourselves.
Mm. Oh, that's great. Thank you. The piece has some interesting challenges too, right? When it comes to directing. And so perhaps you can talk to us a bit more about, what have been some of the challenges of directing a piece like this?
Definitely. I mean, I love a good directing challenge. And I've directed plays that have had to do with soccer before, but I am not a soccer player. And so I think figuring out how to grapple with that aspect. How does a team move differently than a cast?
Mm,
While they're not playing soccer on stage, I do want them to have this sort of group movement. The play is called The Wolves. They do move as a pack in different ways. And
yeah,
how can they sort of come to that together? And so, what does that ensemble building look like? So, one of the ways that I've dealt with that challenge is coming up with soccer Saturdays, where our
yeah,
rehearsals take place partially indoors, but partially outside on the field, and where the group gets to work together and sort of learn how they move as a group kinesthetically in a different space. Um, I thought during our first soccer Saturday they would learn a few drills and we would be good. But in that soccer Saturday, they actually ended by scrimmaging. Um, and one of them, as we were going inside, said, "Wait, do I love soccer?" So it was exciting to see that joy, that team building, and then also just from a purely technical perspective, I'm really glad that they can do some drills on stage now because that's part of what I hope we can
yeah,
get is a little bit of this reality of their movements. Um, so that's one aspect. And while they're not playing soccer on stage, they are doing some exercises. They are doing
right,
drills, and they have to move, as you know, in as a unit.
yes,
Um, and so, how do they move as a unit while they're doing this text that is quite complicated? It's they're interjecting with each other. There are often three conversations happening at once, but they're still supposed to be doing the exact same stretch at the exact same time.
right,
Um, so, just figuring out and navigating what is the rhythm of the text? How does that match the movement of their bodies? When do we need to sort of shape that differently so the audience isn't lulled into either one conversation over another, or so that they're not sort of just taken up with the movement, and then not able to come sort of with the through line or the arc of each scene. So there is some sort of shaping and other challenges as far as that goes. And then the play does deal with some sensitive topics. And so creating norms and
yeah,
a group dynamic that can handle those challenges and handle this deep reading of the text, to come to what makes sense for their characters, and then also how to
mm,
leave that on the stage or the field so they can go home,
right,
and remain grounded in their own lives and in their own
hmm,
bodies, which is a challenge that a lot of actors have to deal with. But
yeah,
especially because this play deals with high schoolers who are unfiltered in a lot of ways and who are not,
mm.
um, they we sort of phrase it in rehearsal as they are both offended frequently and offensive frequently.
Right,
um,
yes.
And how can you separate that from yourself and your own relationship with the cast slash team? So I think those are a few of the challenges that we've been grappling with together. And as the faculty advisor, you got to see a little bit of the first day of staging
I
where we were like,
did. Yeah.
so many moving parts here with the text and with the exercises that we're doing. Um,
Absolutely. I mean, just, as you said, all of those things happening at the same time. So the form, the content, the physical, the verbal, the emotional, everything kind of working together there. It's going to be an intricate process of, as you said, ironing it out. Yeah.
Definitely. I think the play, sort of like high school students, can be taken as sort of just a given. It can seem simpler than it is, and so I think that's also one of the exciting thing is that diving deeply and saying, "Whoa, we're really unpacking all of these layers," and the deeper we go together, the more that we'll be able to sort of reveal about the characters. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And I've been really impressed with how that ensemble has been working. It's really exciting to see that development, even in the early stages right now. So,
yeah.
um, I guess then my final question for you in this conversation has been, what's your favorite part of the process so far?
Oh, it's a hard question. I think I'm really loving going into rehearsal and getting to be there with the cast, but that feels sort of like an easy answer. Um, but I think my favorite part just might be all of the ways in which the cast continue to surprise me, and the
Mhm.
way that they are really looking out for each other in ways that feel like a team. And then the ways in which they are looking at this play in text as something that they're taking quite seriously and really diving to the depths of, but then also that they're there to play. And
Mm.
that's why we're doing theater too, right? We're part of this collaborative
Right.
community. We're making art, and that art is saying something, but we're also having a great time doing it together. So I think getting to play with this particular cast is both an honor and a blessing, and something that I can't wait to continue doing. We have so many soccer Saturdays left where we'll get to do these
Yes.
things together, and yeah, I just look forward to continuing that throughout the process.
Yeah, that's a great answer, and it really is a really rewarding process. So thanks, Marina, for taking the time to talk to me today. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It's great to be in conversation about this play.